Set 5 goals every morning. When you get up, ask yourself, what 5 things need to happen today for this to be a great day? And write down those 5 goals on a piece of paper and carry that piece of paper with you. And do not go to sleep until you have done those 5 things. Is everyone clear on this idea, the daily 5? Yes? I want this to be a part of your culture. I want this to be a part of, I want this to be a ritual that you do every morning. That you set 5 goals for yourself, and when we next meet, you watch how much more successful you are, how much more effective you are, how much more happy you are. Because here's the thing. If you were to set 5 goals every morning, starting today, and make sure you did 5 little goals, just little goals. Meet 2 new people, number 1. Read from a good book, number 2. Tell my family I love them, number 3. Exercise today, number 4. Innovate in my business, number 5. 5 simple goals for one day, right? Now, if you set 5 goals today, and you did the same thing tomorrow, and you did it every day for the next 30 days, at the end of 30 days from now, 4 weeks, you will have achieved close to 200 little goals. Is that not right? At the end of 12 months from now, by setting 5 little goals every day, you will have achieved close to 2,000 little goals. 2,000 little goals. So how do you create a great career? How do you create leadership and excellence? Small daily improvements over time lead to stunning results. Which brings me to my final point. Think about how you want to be remembered when you're no longer here. Connect to the fact that life is really short. Live each day from today onwards as if it was your last. There is nothing to be gained by letting your fears own you. There is nothing to be gained by playing small with your life. There is nothing to be gained in your business by holding back, by being scared to ask for what you want. There is nothing to be gained by refusing to dream because you're too afraid of rejection. Because before you know it, you will be at the end of your life. So think about what you need to do so that when you're no longer here, your life and your acts will live on after you. And I want to tell you about a final story. You see, I realized that most people don't discover what life is about until it's time to die. Because when we're younger, we're so busy being busy, we get caught up in the busyness and the thick of thin things. And then when we get old and start to think about our life and start to connect with our death and the fact that our days are numbered, we start to wake up to what's most important. And so I want to tell you a final story. My mother and I were going to a resort. And it was one of those special mornings that only a mother and son can share. She was telling me about her childhood. She was making me laugh. She was sharing her wisdom with me because I've got a very wise mother. And as we were driving up to this resort, this hotel where we were going to spend the weekend, I suddenly saw a police officer slowing down traffic. And it became clear that there had been a major car accident on this highway. And I could see all these cars that had been in the accident, and I could see all these ambulances, and I could see all these fire engines. And one car in particular captured my attention because, ladies and gentlemen, inside that one car, there was a young man. And the young man had clearly died in that accident. Because there was a rescue worker with the jaws of life, and he was cutting this man's body and taking it out of the car. And as my mom and I drove by this car, there were two things I saw outside of this man's car that I will never be able to erase from my memory so long as I live. Number one, I saw this man's briefcase. And number two, I saw this man's squash racket. Just an ordinary man, much as me, who got up that morning, thought he was going to go to work, thought he was going to play squash with a friend, and it turned out to be the last day of his life. Well, let's be honest here in this room. We all come from different personal histories. We come from many different countries. But one thing, you, I, and every one of the wonderful, special leaders without a title in this room have in common is we will die. We just don't know what day that will happen on. And so why postpone being excellent? Why postpone chasing your dreams? Why postpone being the most loving person you know? And as we left this accident, my mom, who had been so full of life, suddenly became very silent. And for the next 3 hours as we drove to this hotel, my mother did not say one word. She wouldn't even look at me. She looked out the passenger seat. Later that night, my mom and I went for dinner. And I asked my mom, I said, Mom, why were you so quiet? You didn't say a word in that car. What were you thinking? And my mom looked at me and she said, Robin, do you really want to know what I was thinking? And I said, yes. And she said, Robin, I was thinking about the man we saw in that car who was killed in the accident earlier today. And she said, son, I couldn't help thinking whether that man kissed his children goodbye. She said, son, I couldn't help wondering whether that man read the great pieces of literature that are out there before he died. She said, son, I couldn't help wondering whether that man we saw in the car listened to music so beautiful before he was killed that it brought tears to his eyes. She said, I was wondering whether he danced and whether he took risks and whether he read great things and did great deeds. She said, son, I was wondering whether that man lived his life fully. When I was growing up, my father said something I've never forgotten. He said, son, when you were born, you cried while the world rejoiced. He said, son, live your life in such a way that when you die, the world cries while you rejoice. Or as one father said to his son, on his deathbed, be ashamed to die until you have won a victory for humankind. And so as I close, I simply ask you, what will you do when you leave here in a few minutes to start leading without a title? What will you do with what you've experienced here today so that the ideas you have will translate into action that will build your business, build your family, build your community, build a better world? Because if you walk out of here and do not make changes and do not change the way you think, feel, speak, and behave, this world will be less of a place because you did not play fully. Margaret Mead, the social anthropologist, said, never doubt that a small group of people can change the world. She said, that's the only group that ever has. I wish you great lives. I wish you great success. And most importantly, I wish each and every one of you great leadership. Thank you very much.